witnessed the first flight.
All right, tensions escalating with Turkey after President Trump refuses new demands in exchange for the release of American pastor Andrew Brunson.
The tension erupting into chaos after a gunman opens fire on the U.S. Embassy in the Turkish capital. So was the president making the right decision? Joining us now is the Vice President for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation, James Carafano. Thank you for joining us this morning. What do you think? Is President Trump doing the right thing here?
Well, if you actually look at the timeline of what went on here, the U.S. has actually been very disciplined in how they've approached this with Turkey. They started out with quiet discipline. The president raised this personally with President Erdogan, and then they gradually got up to demonstrate their frustration. So I think the administration has been correct on this. And the other thing is, this is actually consistent with kind of a fundamental pillar of this administration's foreign policy, which it does believe in human rights, and one of the things it believes is that the first way you demonstrate your commitment to human rights is you seek to protect the rights of your own citizens abroad.
You know, it sounds like, as far as with Brunson, that these are trumped-up charges made up by the Turkish government. But what about this guy that we have here in the United States, Fethullah Gulen, who is this Turkish cleric that Erdogan says was behind some type of an attempted coup in Turkey to overthrow the government? Is there any credibility to that? Does that claim hold water?
Well, I don't know, but there is a real difference here between the two cases. In one case, this man hasn't been charged with a crime. He's in prison. It's very clear he hasn't had adequate due process. In the United States, whatever Gulen might or might not have done, we have process for extradition. We have rule of law, and he's been processed through that just like everybody else. And so if the Turks want that guy, they have to go after him legally and legitimately, because anyone that's in the United States is considered a U.S. person legally, and that means they have all the rights of an American citizen. So for us to just throw that guy out of the country or hand him over to the Turks, we'd be violating his human rights, and we don't do that.
What do you think ends up happening to Pastor Brunson?
Well, I mean, I think he should be released, and you have a Turkish leader here who I just don't understand, because his foreign policies are not in the best interest of the Turkish people. He's tubed the economy. He started a needless dispute with the United States that wants to partner with him, that's committed to keeping the U.S.-Turkish bilateral relationship strong, even though we have our differences. And so in many ways, his own policy is kind of incomprehensible.
You know, it's interesting that you're watching the situation deteriorate in this country, and we're watching them fall towards countries that we don't typically get along with, and they're moving away from, you know, our embrace, and I think NATO's embrace as well. Is it sad to see Turkey kind of move in this direction?
Well, you know, I will say, I don't think there's a big space for them to go there. I mean, in the end, countries like Russia and China and Iran can really do nothing for Turkey. And but on the other hand, look, we've been through this before. You know, back in the early days of NATO, France, one of our strongest allies under de Gaulle, who was a wartime partner of the United States, pulled out of the NATO military alliance. And you know what? We survived. And if Turkey decides to make really stupid policy decisions, the U.S. will find a way to defend its interests in the region. And the country that's going to be the big loser here is Turkey.
All right.
James Carafano, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.